It happened about 10 years ago. During the summer holidays, my family and I went to visit my aunt. She lived in a quiet neighborhood in a regular 5-story apartment building. Nothing fancy, nothing unusually old, just gray concrete walls and narrow hallways. The kind of place where you can hear the faint buzz of the fluorescent lights in the corridor, the soft thump of footsteps from neighbors, and the low murmur of televisions from other apartments. At that age, the apartment felt enormous. The rooms were small but crowded, the air heavy with the smell of old paint and faint dampness. The first day felt normal. My aunt welcomed us warmly, my cousins ran around excitedly. Dinner was prepared, and the smells of the kitchen filled the rooms. The adults were chatting in the living room, laughter ringing softly, and we children were playing. But as the evening went on, the atmosphere began to shift subtly. My little cousin was only 5 years old. We were playing with toy cars when he suddenly froze. His eyes locked onto a dark corner of the room, and his little hands trembled. Without saying a word, he ran to me, panic written on his face. He whispered that there was someone standing in the dark. My aunt laughed gently and said he was just afraid of the dark, but I could tell by the expression in his eyes that something was different. A child doesn't panic like that without reason. That night, no one took it seriously. The adults were too preoccupied with conversation and laughter, the clinking of dishes and cups filling the apartment. I, however, started to feel unwell. My head ached, and my throat burned. My aunt noticed and suggested I rest in the smaller room that opened onto the balcony. The room was modest. A bed, a small table, thin curtains barely covering the glass door leading outside. Through them, the yellow light from the street lamp filtered in, casting long, soft shadows on the balcony. There were a few flower pots, some chairs, and an old drying rack. I left the door slightly open and lay down on the bed. The voices of my family drifted in faintly from the living room. The laughter, the talking, the occasional clink of a cup or spoon gradually faded, leaving only the soft ticking of the wall clock. I must have fallen asleep, or at least drifted into a half-dream state. Then, deep in the night, I woke up. It was around 2 a.m. The room was dim, the only light coming from the street outside. The curtain fluttered. Slow and uneven, I assumed it was just the wind. But something about the movement felt deliberate, unnatural, like someone was gently pushing it from the other side. My heart began to race. I turned my head toward the balcony. The door was open, and there it was. A tall, thin silhouette standing by the railing. For a moment, I couldn't comprehend what I was seeing. My first thought was that it had to be my brother. He was tall, sometimes went out on the balcony to make phone calls. Maybe that was it. But something about the shape felt wrong. It didn't move. Not even slightly. It simply stood there, staring into the room. As my eyes adjusted, the shape became clearer. A human outline, impossibly still, arms hanging straight at its sides. No face, no features, just a shadow darker than the night behind it. My lungs felt tight. I couldn't breathe. My body refused to move. I was frozen between disbelief and fear. From the living room, a faint laugh drifted. My family was still awake. That comforted me slightly, but I dared not move. The silhouette was still there, unmoving. I blinked, thinking maybe I had imagined it. But when I opened my eyes again, it was still there. Then, A sudden gust of wind moved the curtain. In that instant, the figure disappeared. Gone. As if it had never been there at all. I jumped up, slammed the balcony door shut, and locked it. My hands shook uncontrollably. I crawled back into bed, but couldn't close my eyes. I stared at the ceiling, listening to the faint tick-tock of the clock. Waiting for dawn to break, morning came, and everyone acted as if nothing had happened. My aunt was smiling in the kitchen. My cousins were laughing, my parents chatting over tea. I didn't say a word I couldn't. The image of that silhouette refused to leave my mind. Later, my brother walked into the kitchen, and I quietly asked what he had been doing on the balcony the previous night. He looked at me, confused. "What balcony?" he asked. "The one connected to the room I slept in," I told him. "You were out there around 2 a.m. He frowned. "I was in the living room all night," he said. "Mom can confirm. I never went into that room." A cold chill ran down my spine. My stomach dropped. I couldn't speak. I walked back to the room and stared at the balcony. In the daylight, it looked completely ordinary. Flower pots, a chair, sunlight on the tiles. But I could still see it in my mind. The figure standing there, watching. That day, strange things continued. A pot in the kitchen exploded on the stove. Doors creaked open and closed on their own. My little cousin cried again, saying he saw something in the hallway. My aunt tried to explain everything away, the heat, the metal expanding, the wind. But her own face betrayed uncertainty. We were all unsettled. That night, nobody turned off the lights completely. I refused to sleep in that room again. I stayed in the living room, pretending to watch TV, but my heart jumped at every sound from the balcony. Every flutter of the curtain in the breeze made me feel like it had returned. We stayed 2 more nights. Each night I woke up at least once, expecting to see that figure again. Even after returning home, the memory stayed vivid. I tried to convince myself it was a trick of the light, or a dream, but deep down, I knew what I had felt was real. The sense of being watched, the weight of it, that is something no imagination can replicate. Years passed. I grew older, life moved on. But sometimes when I stand on a balcony at night, feeling the wind move the curtains, a chill runs down my spine. Every time I remember that night, that same stillness, that same silent figure. And sometimes, I can't help but wonder, did it remain in that apartment? Or did it follow me? I never found an answer. But after that night, I learned one thing. Even in ordinary, everyday places, behind seemingly safe walls, something can be watching. And after that night, no balcony ever felt ordinary again.